Hey guys, sorry for the delay on the videos. I was dealing with phase 2 launch, updating all my IC veins and Wowhead guides. Valentine's Day was last week and real life stuff with my kids. Plus I re-rolled to the EU servers a couple weeks ago to join Fake Fresh for speedrunnings and stuff. So I've just been no-lifing to get my tunes up ready for splits. So it's been hectic, but I'm back on track and I have everything lined up for some videos. As you could guess, I've been into Nomura a few times now and Warlock feels amazing. I've got literally no gear and I'm able to do some insane damage, but I'll leave that for the next video. Today I just want to tackle Pre-BiS and tomorrow I'll do it for phase 2. I'll briefly go over some Pre-BiS options with options for both sets as well. I'm not going to sit here and list every single possible option for each slot, but I'll list some easy ones to obtain and of course the actual Pre-BiS, plus whatever ones you can get from the auction house. One thing to mention is that on the slots with Fiery Wrath, these can be pretty pricey for the highest roll of fire damage, but you'll be able to find cheaper versions of Fiery Wrath that'll just have a few less fire damage on it, but it'll be way cheaper. So just check the auction house occasionally to see what you can get a good deal on. Also, please go check out Stefan's Wowhead guide for a complete list of options. He's got like a bunch of options listed for each one. I did the IC Veins guide for the BiS, but that's just for the full BiS and it doesn't have all the options on there. The next video will be the same for Warlock tanks, then I'll do the actual raid guide, and then I have a big video coming out for some boss tips. As for the spec, this will be regarding Fire Dust Roll only as it's extremely powerful right now and miles ahead of Affliction. Luckily, if you do choose to play Affliction, the full BiS is literally the same thing, so don't worry. The only difference is that with Pre-BiS, you obviously won't wear any fire gear and just look for some shadow gear instead. Anyway, as for the spec, this is what I'm running. As of right now, this is the highest simming spec as well, but obviously things can change. You have some minor options if you prefer not to put this point into Improved Imp and put it into Improved Immolate instead. You can also take 2 points out of Ember Storm to top off Improved Imp. However, I would just use this spec because while Imp still does great damage, you might find him running out of mana on some longer fights. So the spec is pretty self-explanatory. You just have 5 into Cataclysm for the mana back, 5 into Bane for faster casting times on your Immolate, 5 into Devastation for crit, 1 for Shadowburn for a finisher or when you're moving. Also, I love Shadowburn on the last boss as it pretty much one-shots the bombs that come out, so it allows you to help your raid with the bombs, which can be kind of annoying for certain raids. The 2 points in the Destructive Reach are completely flexible and you can put them into Intensity if you want. I just personally prefer Destructive Reach right now since we run mages and they'll 100% have the aggro over me on almost all the trash packs, so I don't get much pushback on my Hellfire. However, like I said, this is subjective and you can definitely put them into Intensity if you want. Your 1 point in the Ruin is absolutely mandatory. This is super OP right now. This is making our crits do ridiculous amounts of damage. My Chaos Bolts are critting for over 4,500 right now, and I'm not even close to even Pre-BiS. Put 5 points into Ember Storm to give you more fire damage, and 4 points into Improved Immolate, and then obviously your last point into Improved Imp. As for the runes, you obviously need Chaos Bolt, Shadow and Flame, and Incinerate. No contest there. Not even going to talk about the other options. For your boot rune, Demonic Knowledge is by far the best in the group. I'm getting like 66 or so spell power from this rune when paired with the best in slot STV Trinket, that Infernal Pact one. So just use them both and keep it on. Dance of the Wicked was bugged until the other day. It used to give back an insane amount of mana, but now it's fixed and it's back to how much mana you should get, and I'll never use it again. The only rune that I swap off is Lake of Fire, and that's only on the last 2 bosses. Menagerie has a lot of movement and it's kind of annoying to use sometimes. In the last boss, you can make an argument for Demonic Tactics since it's a longer fight. I personally don't, and I still use Lake of Fire, and I just use the intermission when the boss, transitions into the next phase as downtime to tap to full and then get a full bandage off. This of course can be scuffed if you get the fire dot debuff, but you shouldn't be getting that, right? Or something that stops you from being able to bandage. So I'll leave that up to you as well. Bottom line is, if you can use Lake, you should use it because it is better than Tactics. Now to start on the Pre-BiS, as you can see, it's a mix of gear from BFD, a few PvP pieces, and a bunch of bind on equip items. Of course, the BOEs can be rather pricey, so I'll have other cheaper stuff listed on each option. I'll link this list in the description, and you can just click it and go there yourself and just hover your mouse over like this over each slot, and you'll see all the options that I put on the wish list as well. Before we start, if you wouldn't mind hitting the follow button, I'd appreciate that. And I stream over on Twitch at twitch.tv/CricksVibes, where I'm going to be doing my speedruns and everything else. You can stop by and ask any question you want, or you can just head to my Discord and I'll help you with whatever. Anyway, starting with the Helm. The long-term goal here is the powerful tailoring helmet, but seeing as this is a Pre-BiS list and you need to go into the raid to get this, I'll exclude it. Also, it's giga expensive, like 200 to 300 gold to craft this on my server, which is Living Flame EU. Alternatively, you can just go to the auction house and pick up a Fire Wrath Helm. This will also be pretty pricey, but way cheaper than the tailoring one. But what I've also noticed is that the lower rolls of Fiery Wrath typically are much cheaper. For example, this one is the BiS and it rolled 27 fire damage and it was super expensive. But I picked up a 24 fire damage one off the auction house for like 8 to 9 gold. So don't be stuck on having the highest roll. Unless you can afford it, obviously, then just go ahead and get it. Just look for the best bang for your buck. Spell Power Goggles Extreme is generally really cheap on the auction house as well if you just want to slap that on until you craft your all powerful tailoring helmet. The Spell Power Extreme Plus are not in the game. I've been seeing a lot of BiS lists with these on there for some reason. I don't know why they're doing that for. It's not in the game, so you can't get that. But you can get Spell Power Goggles Extreme. If you really want to save some money, just get the Augural Shroud. It's pretty much free on the auction house right now. Other than that, you can just keep using your Rakamars or Twilight Helm from BFD. For Pre-BiS next, just keep using your Jagged Bone Necklace from BFD. If you weren't able to get that, then Scarlet Monastery has a very nice 5 Spell Power neck called Ghost Shard Talisman that you can farm up. For shoulders, you have 3 solid options for Pre-BiS. Mantle of Dawn is the best since it has 1 more fire damage and pretty easy to get inside of Scarlet Monastery. Inquisitor Shawl is also located in Scarlet Monastery, so you have a solid shot at both, especially if you're dungeon cleaved. Lastly, Crimson Silk can be bought at the auction house for close to nothing, or you can craft it yourself since you should be tailoring. There's a ton of great robes you can use as Pre-BiS, but I won't talk about them all. In my opinion, the best is Cindercloth robe. Only issue with this is that it's super expensive, going anywhere from 50 to 70 gold right now on my server. You can of course craft this yourself, but even the 2 Heart of Fires you need are very expensive. If you really want this, you can save the money and farm up those Heart of Fires from any fire Ellie in the world pretty much. That works too. You can also buy robes at a Magi. I don't know which one it is, but yeah, that one, which are also very expensive by the way. However, here's a hack. There's another chest piece called Elemental Raiment, which have 21 spell damage and you can get them super cheap. I do not know why this is so cheap because it's 3 spell power more than the Dreamweave vest, and the Dreamweave one is like 25 gold or so. Makes no sense. But yeah, best bang for your buck is the Elemental Raiment. As for the Dreamweave vest, this is still kind of pricey right now, but it's very quick and easy to farm up the mats to make it if you want. If you don't want to spend a lot of gold and you don't want to farm up mats, then you can pick up the Black Mage Weave chest for less than 2 gold. If you're Horde, you have an amazing option with 23 fire damage to go do that one quest in Hillsbrad that has you kill Baron Vardis. But yeah, like I said, there's a ton of solid Pre-BiS options for chest. I like the Elemental Raiment because it's the cheapest one and it's very good spell power. Bracers are next, and in general, this phase are very lackluster for Pre-BiS and BiS. The best options for both are the Dryad wrist bindings with 16 spell power. Only issue with these is that you need Exalted Reputation with the Warsong rep, and that's AIDS to get. But don't worry if you didn't farm it, because you have 2 amazing options that you can go buy in the auction house right now. Fire Wrath is 14 fire damage, meaning it's only 2 less than the Exalted Bracers. Those are going for about 8 gold on my server, but you can also just keep the Phoenix bindings that you've been using in phase 1 because they cost like 80 silver, and that's only 1 less spell power than the Fire Wrath and 3 less spell power than the Exalted Bracers. So don't trip if you didn't get Exalted. Pre-BiS gloves can be as expensive as you want. The best option is Dreamweave gloves, which are kind of pricey at about 25 gold on my server right now, but you can farm up the mats pretty fast, just like I said with the Dreamweave chest. Another option that can also be really pricey is the Fiery Wrath version of these, which are 2 more spell damage and trade off for some stats. Like I said, it's kind of expensive, but good thing there's some really cheap alternatives with the Black Mage Weave gloves and the Crimson Silk gloves. These are only 3 and 4 less spell power than the Dreamweave, and they cost less than a gold on the auction house. So if you want to spend some gold, get Dreamweave or Fiery Wrath. If you want to save some gold, get Black Mage Weave and Crimson Silk gloves. Pre-BiS belts are very interesting. You have many options, all of which are attained in different ways. First off, do not worry about the engineering belt. It's not worth, but more on that in the phase 2 BiS video coming out tomorrow. The best one is of course the good old Fiery Wrath option, and in my opinion, that's the best option. The highest roll is 20 fire damage and is giga expensive, but you can pay less than 2 gold for like a 13 or 14 fire damage belt and call it a day. If you don't want to spend that, then you can go farm up the Defilers or the Highlanders belt from a Rothi Basin rep, which is on par with it as well. Pre-BiS pants are once again Fiery Wrath, and for some reason, this slot is much less expensive when it comes to purchasing Fiery Wrath gear. The highest roll is 27 fire damage, which kinda is expensive, but you should be able to find some 20 to 23 fire damage ones, anywhere between 2 to 8 gold, depending on how much you want to spend and of course your server. There's also the red Mage Weave pants, but right now they're like 4 gold on my server for 14 spell damage, whereas there's a handful of 22 fire damage Fiery Wrath ones for less gold than that, and I'll always choose Fiery Wrath for less gold and more spell power when given the option. If you're looking to spend no gold at all, then Soul Leash pants from BFD can hold you over until you can get your BiS pants from the raid. For Pre-BiS boots, there aren't any mind-blowing options. If you crafted your tailoring epic boots last phase, then just use those. Not only are they the best option, even once you get your best in slot boots for the phase, you can still use these crafted ones for the threat reduction, which is really nice. So I personally really like these. If you don't have them or want them, then you can farm up the Defilers or Highlanders cloth boots from their Wrathy PvP, or just simply pick up a Boots of the Enchanter, which costs less than a gold. For rings, it's pretty simple. You can wear double Warsong PvP rings, but not the same kind, of course. Meaning you can wear the level 28 ones that give 7 spell damage, and you can also wear the 38 one that gives 9 spell damage. You can also use the Twilight ring from Kelor's if you have that as well. As for the new STV PvP ring, Infernal Bloodcoil ring, This is very good. The only problem is that you will also be using the new Blood Moon STV event trinket Infernal Pact Essence, as this combined with your Demonic Knowledge rune will give you some solid spell power, and that beats out the ring, and you can only have one of these PvP items at a time. So you can't use the ring and the trinket at the same time, and we want to use the trinket. Which, speaking of trinkets, super simple here. Use the new STV trinket I just talked about and Invoker's Void Pearl from BFD. These are the only trinkets that give you spell power until you can get the new one from the raid. Sadly, if you don't have these, there's no good options to wear. You're stuck wearing like Rune of Perfection, Minor Miscombobulator to get some mana back, and maybe the PvP trinket to help you get out of slows, stuns, and stuff, but yeah, kind of lackluster. For wands, we finally have a few options for spell power wands. The best and most expensive is, of course, the Fiery Wrath ones, as you can imagine. Get ready to spend some gold if you want that. A better option is to either farm up Necrotic Wand with the same amount of spell power from the rare inside of SM Graveyard, or to simply buy the Greater Mystic Wand from the auction house. It's only 2 less spell damage, but also only costs 3 gold or so. Lastly, for weapons, a ton of choices for Pre-BiS here, and the best one will continue to be the elusive Rod of the Ancient Sleepwalker from BFD. For those of you like me who never got lucky enough to get that to drop, Dagger of the Willing Sacrifice from BFD is a great Pre-BiS option for your main hand. You can also, of course, swoop up a Fiery Wrath option for staffs and main hands if you want to spend the gold on them. Guess what? They're expensive. You can also farm up a Hypnotic Blade out of Scarlet Monastery for 9 spell damage as well if you don't want to spend the gold or keep doing BFD. And for offhands, while there's a handful of options, I'm going to make this real quick and just say to use your Firestone. Fuck it. It gives you 14 fire damage. If you want a little more oomph, then you can go do the Warlock quest to get the Orb of No Orahil. No idea how to say that. This also has 14 fire damage, so it's the same, but it does come with 5 intellect and an on use that'll heal you for 40 health every 3 seconds for 30 seconds. To be honest with you, I'm lazy and I'm not going to go do that quest, so I'm just going to use the Firestone for the same amount of fire damage. Well, that's it for Pre-BiS, my friends. I'll get the phase 2 BiS done tomorrow, maybe the next morning, something like that for you guys, and then I'll move on to the tank Pre-BiS and BiS. After that, I'll start doing the raid guides and whatever else you guys want. If you made it this far into the video and you have some like ideas for Warlock videos that you think you would like done, let me know in the comments. I don't mind doing them. Doesn't take that long to do it. And I'm here to spam some videos, man. I just want to help you guys out as much as I can. So until then, be safe out there. Enjoy the phase. Hit that follow button for me if you don't mind, and check the stream out over at twitch.tv/CrooksVibes. I read on multiple Warlocks in the guild Fake Fresh, where you'll be able to see me speedrunning and doing a bunch of other shit. Peace, everybody.